Okay, so in this video, I want to talk to you about joints. Joints is a really powerful way of being able to bring multiple aspects within a project together. So if you have multiple components and you want to bring some sort of relation between them once you've modeled them up, jointing is a great way for you to be able to apply these relationships and then be able to explore these relationships. So in the example that I've got here, we have these two bodies and we have a cylinder cut through both of them. So we have a hole that cuts through, okay? Now, what I've done in this project is I've applied a joint to both of these bodies, and so they now relate as if there is essentially a dowel that they're both sleeved around, okay? So what I'll do is I'll show you how I did that. I'll come back and I'll delete. Now you can see at the moment that I modeled two objects separate to each other, and you can see these are my two sketches that I created, and here they are. At the moment, this object is floating and this object is grounded. Grounding is a really useful function to use within Fusion, and grounding enables you to stop components moving about when you're trying to work on them. So you can see here when I right click on this component in the component browser, I can unground it and now I can move it around. If I bring it back here and select ground, it's not going to move, okay? And when you're doing joints, I would recommend at least having one object grounded, because then you'll know whether your joints are actually functioning the way you want them to. So I've got my component grounded, and then I come up here to assemble, okay? And I want to come down to this option, which is joint. I click on that, and it's going to ask me if I want to capture my position. Capturing position, essentially what it is doing is saying, do you want to capture the position as it stands now, or do you want to go back to where everything was sitting when you modeled it? I didn't model that object where it is now. It was modeled over here next to those two, but I've since picked them up and moved them around. So I have that option. What I'll do is I'll just use capture position so I know where everything is. And now it's automatically going, right, you have an object, where do you want to apply the joint? So in this case, I'm going to come in, I'm going to look at my cylinder, and I'm going to apply my joint inside the cylinder. It's now going to jump across and offer this selection. I'm going to select that cylinder. And you can see that it's automatically jointed, but also suggesting what sort of joint. And there's multiple joints that we have options from. If I come back to rigid, okay, they're fixed together. If I come to revolute, you can see that it's rotating around the axis of the cylinder. Slider is essentially allowing me to slide along the length of that joint. Cylindrical allows me to slide and rotate, which is realistically what would happen if these were sharing a sleeve. Pin slot, which in this case is incorrect for this type of joint. And then planar, which you can see is sliding across the planar face. So if I come back to cylindrical, you can see that our joint is working. We've got them both selected. Our alignments are good. We can flip if we so wish. We also have the option here to slide up and down, and you can see that it's adjusting this toggle as we go. What I'll do is I'll set it to 0 for the time being, and then I'll press OK. And we can see that our joint has come in a separate place to our components. It lives in its own section of the browser. And that's because you'll end up with multiple joints, and they might be across multiple components. So the joint doesn't want to be hidden away within one component. If I come in here and have a look and right click, you can see that there's some options with the joint, okay? I can come back and I can edit the joint, and then I can make changes to that joint as I see fit. The other option that I have is I can edit the joint limits. So editing joint limits means that I can essentially put limitations on how far or how little I want this object to be able to move. So you can see in this option, I've adjusted the slide. Or in this option, I can adjust the rotation. So now you can see that I can only slide so far and I can only rotate so far. And setting limitations can be applied to any joint type we wish, okay? And that's the power of jointing. We can have multiple components within assemblies, we can apply multiple component joints, and we can slowly build models where they will interact with each other via the joints that we create.